This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Allen. Today, we confront a growing national crisis, one that cuts to the heart of how we value life in Canada. I'm talking about the rapid expansion of euthanasia and assisted suicide, known here under the legal framework of medical assistance in dying, or MAID. In 2024 alone, over 16,500 Canadians died by euthanasia, a record high. That's nearly 6.5% of all deaths in the country, a dramatic increase from just a few years prior. Canada now has one of the highest euthanasia rates in the world, surpassing even nations that have long had legal assisted dying programs. Think of countries like Belgium and the Netherlands, for example. Critics warn this is no longer a narrow, compassionate option for the terminally ill, but a system that increasingly puts pressure on the vulnerable, the elderly, the disabled, and even those suffering from poverty or lack of access to proper care. The federal government's plan to expand MAID to include individuals with mental illness alone as a qualifying condition has been delayed twice due to public backlash, but it's still on the table. Meanwhile, troubling reports continue to surface. Canadians choosing euthanasia not out of true will, but because they can't access the supports they need to live. Housing instability, inadequate palliative care, and mental health treatment gaps are all being cited in MAID requests. As Canadians, we have to ask, where do we draw the line? What kind of society are we becoming when death is easier to access than meaningful support or care? Is this a slippery slope we were told would never happen? Or is it the logical outcome of a system untethered from ethical restraint? To help us unpack this complex and urgent issue, I'm joined now by Alex Schadenberg, Executive Director of the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. Alex, good to have you on today. I appreciate your time. So let's talk about the numbers first, because for many Canadians, we have these numbers thrown at us, but what do they really mean? Is euthanasia still on a steady increase year over year?
Sadly, yes. Euthanasia has been increasing every year. In fact, 16,500 is the number that I've estimated based on the data from quite a few of the provinces, because the federal government actually hasn't reported it yet. But that would put us at a very high rate. And just so you know, Quebec actually has the highest rate in the world of any major jurisdiction. They're at 7.6% of all deaths. So, it does vary between provinces, but the fact of it is we've not only expanded by the number of deaths, but also who can die by euthanasia has been constantly changing, not only by its definition, but by what's more and more being considered acceptable, as you've sort of outlined in your introduction.
So do you think this expansion is what's driving this accelerated growth? And are you personally surprised at how quickly things have accelerated?
So the answer to that question is yes and yes. I'm very surprised by how fast we got to where we're at. But I also think that what's driving it is the way that we instituted this law. So because we considered it a form of medical treatment, even though it's not, right? We legalized MAID, euthanasia, by creating an exception in the criminal code to homicide. So doctors and nurse practitioners actually have the legal right in law, once you sign the form, to kill you. That's
Hmm.
exactly what they have. And so by doing that, what we did is we considered it medical treatment. And in our universal healthcare system, we now have doctors in every major medical center who are on a MAID team, and they not only do the act, they sell the act. So if you're in a hospital with a significant health condition, they will approach you and say, "Oh, we're just making sure you know that MAID is available to you." And this has become a commonplace thing. So you get the selling of MAID as well as the doing of MAID in a far more common way.
And it doesn't matter what setting you're in, whether in like hospice, palliative care, general hospital admission. Uh, are these facilities obligated to offer MAID, or to, I guess, make you aware that this is an option for you?
Okay, so that depends what province you're in, but in most provinces, there is a type of an obligation to provide. And in sort of in Quebec and British Columbia, every institution must offer MAID. Not every institution has to offer medical treatment types, every type of medical treatment, but they have to offer MAID, euthanasia. And you're getting this pressure then where palliative care institutions, which were originally opposed to it, are now being forced to participate in it because they received money from the government. So that has also changed palliative care. So it's not only the funding for palliative care that's the issue, it's the whole system where if you're in palliative care, you must be offered MAID in some provinces.
Yeah, and I know we've had you on before where we were discussing the challenges of palliative care funding and how underfunded and inaccessible that system is. And we're going to pack that and more of the details as we talk about the expansion of MAID in just a few moments.